again, everybody. This time I'm here to do a review, and that is on Cinder by Marissa Meyer. As you may or may not know, and I'm sure you do know because this book is very popular right now, Cinder is a retelling of Cinderella featuring cyborgs and all that fun stuff. It combines a bajillion genres, being a dystopian / post-apocalyptic fantasy-esque sci-fi fairy tale retelling and all of that kind of fun stuff. In this, the main character Cinder is a cyborg, which means she is a human who has some robotic parts in her, supposedly from a hovercraft accident when she was younger. But she doesn't remember anything before becoming a cyborg. This takes place in New Beijing, which is the capital of the now Eastern Commonwealth, which would be modern day. Seems like it's a bunch of modern day Asian countries put together in one monarchy, because in this future there's this kind of a post-apocalyptic-esque type thing where there were a lot of wars and countries were reshaped and all that kind of fun stuff. Cyborgs in Cinder's world are second-class citizens, and they are deemed to be the property of others, and Cinder is the property of her guardian, or which would be the stepmother, who took her on reluctantly after her husband adopted her from Europe and then subsequently died of the plague, so she was never wanted to begin with. Despite Cinder being kind of an outcast, her only friends are her family's android Eco and the younger of her two stepsisters, Peony. She happens to be the best mechanic in New Beijing, which is because she's a cyborg. And one day, the prince of the Eastern Commonwealth, Prince Kai, turns up kind of in plain clothes and kind of a disguise with a broken android, which he jokingly says it's a matter of national security, not sounding really serious about it. But then he tries to brush off, saying, "Oh, I'm just really fond of this being my first tutor. It's nothing important." But Cinder can tell through her cyborg capabilities that he is not being entirely truthful. And while all of this is going on, of course, her stepsisters are getting ready for Prince Kai's ball. But there is a bigger conflict here than Cinder being able to go to the ball. There is the issue of the plague being spread around the world, and Cinder's stepsister, her friendly one, who she's actually very close with, Peony, comes down with the plague. And then there is also the problem of the Moon Kingdom, led by Queen Lavana, coming down, and she wants to marry Prince Kai, who of course Cinder and he are attracted to each other, but he doesn't know that Cinder is a cyborg and she is evil, and Cinder has some kind of mysterious capability that is going to be useful to the doctors in stopping the plague somehow, and a lot of fun different stuff going on. That's my crazy synopsis over, because I don't know what's going on with my brain right now. But Cinder, I thought, was a really, really cool, good book, and I'll just get this out of the way. I gave it 5 stars out of 5, yes. As many people have said, it is quite predictable. All of the twists and turns and reveals, you know, as soon as this mysterious element is brought up, you know what it's going to be, what the answer is. There's nothing really surprising in it. But I didn't care. I thought it was just a fun ride. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I love this world that Marissa Meyer has created. It's been like nothing I've ever read before. Like Cyborg, Cinderella, come on now. Who has that? And it's so much more than that. And it was crazy. Like, Cinder as a character was just fascinating. And it's crazy how in this world the cyborgs, how they're looked down upon. Like, they're second-class citizens, and people don't trust them and don't want to be around them, almost kind of, very prejudiced and discriminatory towards them, and it's really just stupid. And it also shows, how forms of discrimination today are stupid. Cinder herself as a character, and I loved Prince Kai, and I found their romance so refreshing because it was actually such a minor part of the book, despite this being a retelling of Cinderella, which, you know, is just the fairy tale rags to riches story. This is about so much more than that. Much more important, the more important context of the story were not, is Cinder going to be able to go to the ball? That's kind of secondary. It's the plague. It's what's going to happen to the Commonwealth because Prince Kai's parents have the plague, and is he going to be forced to marry this evil moon queen, and all of this crazy stuff. And while I liked having the romance there as a more of a, you know, a minor story as an addition to all of this, the fun plot thingies happening and not being the main focus. And this is the first in a quartet of books, I guess it would be, or a tetralogy, a set of 4 books. So things are not resolved in this one, and there's not, doesn't end on quite a cliffhanger, but it sets it up for more books, and I like that. I almost forgot that at first. I'm like, how is this going to abruptly end when I was getting close to the ending? I'm like, oh wait, it's a series. So I'm brain farty there. I don't know. I have been completely inarticulate in this video, but I think if any of what I have just said sounds appealing whatsoever to you, you should definitely check out Cinder, because I read it in less than a day, taking a break only to go to work, and then immediately starting back up on it again when I got home and not going to bed until I finished it, because even though, as I said, none of the twists or anything or big reveals were that much of a revelation, because the reader already knows what the reveal is going to be, that was not the fun of this book. This book did not need to be shocking or anything to be entertaining and so enjoyable, and I just loved it from start to finish, and I cannot wait for the next one, Scarlet, which is going to be like another year, and I'm really bummed that I have to wait that long. But yeah, one kind of thing that I thought was funny was I could see Sailor Moon all over this book. Did anybody get like big Sailor Moon influence in this? Like, okay, taking place in Asia, not in Japan, at least in China, but with the prince, and then there's the moon kingdom, and then there's this mysterious moon princess, and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, oh my god, this is Sailor Moon. I was a huge Sailor Moon fan as a kid, and I still have. Here is the Japanese manga right there above me, if you can see that. That was the re-release done about 10 or so years ago in the original Japanese of the whole manga series. And it's funny, if you read the author bio thingy here, Marissa Meyer actually was a huge Sailor Moon fan, so I thought it was cool that that was acknowledged. And then looking on her website, I think she said she had the character of Cinder was inspired by Azama Miu, who was the actress who played Sailor Jupiter in the live-action Sailor Moon series, which I actually did watch. I don't know how popular that series was, but I thought this was so cool, and I felt like so fangirl. I'm like, oh my god, this author who was so into Sailor Moon, and this book reminds me so much of Sailor Moon, yet it is very different. It's not exactly like a Sailor Moon-like story, and I don't know, my kind of blabbering on here, if that makes you want to read the book more or less, but again, if you think Sailor Moon is cool, it's another reason why you should read this book. This has been the most inarticulate review I feel like I've ever done in my life, but you guys need to go read Cinder because it is just so cool and fun. And surprisingly sad and emotional too at times, which I was not expecting. But I really have to sneeze, so I will let you guys go and see you in my next video.